I never liked early mornings in the Mojave. Not because of the heat. Heat's expected. It's the quiet that gets you. The kind of quiet where the world feels like it's watching, waiting for you to take one step too far. That was the start of our patrol. Just 5 of us, boots in the dust, heading east out of Sloan with nothing but a vague set of coordinates pulled from some forgotten pre-war archive, a potential supply cache, they said. Or maybe classified military remnants. The brass wasn't sure. All we got was, check it out. Don't die. Our squad leader, Stanton, took point. He'd been at this longer than the rest of us combined, and if he ever had optimism, the Mojave beat it out of him years ago. He wasn't a hard ass, though, just quiet, level, efficient. The kind of man who got things done because someone had to. Behind him was Riley, steady shooter, rarely talked. Behind him was Haskins, the nervous one. Not cowardly, just jumpier than the rest of us. The Mojave does that to some people. Then there was Keene. Poor bastard didn't know what the day had lined up for him yet. And at the back? Me. Just another NCR trooper with too much sand in his boots and not enough sleep in his eyes. The sun had barely crested the ridge when we spotted movement ahead. Dust shifting. Shapes. We all slowed instinctively. Stanton raised a fist, low and controlled. Halt order. A moment later, they stepped into view. 2 NCR Rangers, full duster coats, polished helmets catching the morning light, rifles slung with that relaxed confidence only they seemed to have. They were heading west, opposite our direction. Looked like they'd had a rough night. Rangers always do. Stanton gave them a respectful nod, more respect than most officers ever got out of him. One of the Rangers returned it. Morning, he said, in that signature calm, clipped tone. Morning, Stanton replied. Watch yourselves out there. The Ranger gave a faint exhale through the mask. Always. That was it. No speeches. No deep conversation. Just professional courtesy between people who knew what the desert demanded. We passed each other without stopping fully, boots scuffing dust, gear clinking. For a brief second, I wondered where they were headed, and whether they had it worse than we did. Probably. Rangers always seemed to walk toward the worst of things. Once they were out of sight, Stanton tapped his map and murmured, "All right, let's move." The march continued. Hotter sunlight, longer shadows, empty horizon. Just another day on patrol. Just another stretch of Mojave that didn't want us there. I kept telling myself the coordinates were nothing. An old bunker, a rusted shack, something we'd check, log, and forget. But the Mojave never gives nothing. Not to troopers like us. And sure enough, it didn't take long for the wasteland to remind us who it really belongs to. We'd been marching for maybe another hour when the wind shifted. A thin, sharp kind of wind. Hot, bitter, tinged with the smell of rot and sagebrush. The kind of wind that tells you trouble's nearby before you hear it. Stanton stopped first. Then Riley. Then all of us. No command. No signal. Just instinct. Haskins muttered, "I hate this smell," under his breath. I opened my mouth to tell him it was probably just a dead Brahmin baking in the sun. But then I heard it too. That droning. That awful low buzz that rattles in your teeth and crawls under your skin. Cazadors. We tightened formation automatically. Shoulder to shoulder. Rifles angled outward. Stanton scanned the rocks ahead. "Stay close," he said quietly. "Eyes up." The buzzing grew louder. And then they came over the ridge. Not many, 3, maybe 4. But with Cazadors, numbers don't matter. 1 is bad. 2 is a nightmare. More than that, you're lucky to have a funeral. They dive-bombed fast, wings cutting the air like machetes. "Contact!" Stanton shouted. We opened fire, the desert erupting in muzzle flashes and ricochets. Riley dropped the first one clean, burst straight through the thorax. It fell like a burning rag. The second one darted past my left shoulder so close, I felt the wind off its wings. I fired and missed. Something behind me yelped. Keen. When I turned, he was on his back, grabbing at his leg, rolling in the dust, gasping like he'd been punched in the lungs. The sting. Shit! Keen's hit! I yelled. Stanton didn't even hesitate. Stabilize him! Riley! Haskins! On me! They kept firing while I slid to Keen's side. His leg was already swelling through the fabric. The sting mark looked like a hot iron had been pressed into him. He was trying to breathe. Fast. Shallow. Panicked. I don't... He wheezed. Just hold still, I muttered, grabbing the field kit. We got you. Just breathe. The venom was already pulsing under his skin, spreading in branching purple lines. We hit him with an anti-venom dose, then another. It slows it. It never stops it. The buzzing faded. Stanton and the others finished the last two Cazadors with a few sharp bursts. Their bodies hit the dirt with wet thuds. The desert went quiet again. Too quiet. Stanton jogged over, rifle still raised. Damage? He'll live, I said, for now. Keen's eyes were unfocused, his breaths shallow. He swayed even sitting up. He whispered, "Feels cold." The Mojave sun beat down on us, hot enough to bake a skull in an hour. "All right," Stanton said, forcing calm into his voice. "We don't turn back. We're closer to the target than we are to camp. We push on." "Sir," Haskins said quietly. He can barely stand. Stanton looked at Keen, then at the empty desert stretching behind us. The kind of empty where turning back means more time for venom to kill a man slowly. "He stands," Stanton said. "Or we carry him. We can't go back blind through Cazador territory." Riley slung Keen's arm over his shoulder. The rest of us tightened formation again. "Move," Stanton said. So we moved. 5 troopers, 1 poisoned, marching under a sun that felt hotter by the minute. Every step, Keen's breath hitched. Every mile, he slowed. Every time he stumbled, we caught him. Nobody said it, but we all felt it. We were too far to turn back. And the Mojave wasn't done with us yet. By the time the sun hit its highest point, he was barely walking. More like drifting between steps, head lolling, sweat pouring down his neck. Even under all that heat, his skin had that cold sheen Cazador venom gives you. We kept him upright, swapping who supported him every few minutes, so nobody burned out too fast. He didn't complain, didn't whine, just kept whispering, "I'm fine," in between shallow breaths. He wasn't fine. We all knew it. But turning back wasn't an option, not through the swarm zone we'd just survived. So we pushed on. The desert opened into a broad, barren basin. Scattered rocks, dead brush, and long shadows stretching over the sand. The coordinates were dead ahead. Didn't look like much. Didn't look like anything. Then Riley stopped and pointed. At first I didn't see it. Just a heap of rusted metal half buried in the dust. But as we got closer, the shape started to make sense. Curved hull, twisted frame, a rotor blade jutting out like a broken limb, a vertibird. A pre-war one, older model, judging from the tail assembly. And surrounding it, half-collapsed supply sheds. Metal walls eaten by rust doors hanging crooked. Old military signage peeled off by time and sandstorms. "Damn," Haskins muttered. "This is bigger than I thought." Stanton scanned the perimeter, rifle raised. Eyes open. Pre-war crash sites usually mean defense systems. Or worse. "Worse?" I repeated. "What's worse than that?" He didn't answer. Riley helped ease Keen down against the vertibird hull. Keen's head lolled back, eyes half open. He sucked in a shaky breath. "Just dizzy," he murmured. "Stay put," I told him. "We'll secure the area." We spread out, sweeping the yard. Everything looked dead, just rust, dust, and old scars from the crash. No movement. No unusual sound. But there was something strange. The air felt charged, dry, metallic, like walking past a live generator. Hairs on my arms stood up. Anyone else feel that? I asked. Haskins nodded slowly. Yeah, like static. Riley didn't answer. He was staring at the vertibird fuselage, more specifically at the underside. Power conduits, he muttered. These aren't dead. I frowned. How the hell are you seeing that? He tapped the exposed wiring poking from a cracked panel. It wasn't sparking, but it was humming. Softly. That cold, metallic vibration you only get from something still holding power after way too many years. Okay, I said, trying to ignore the unease crawling up my neck. So, what? Backup line still running? Old fusion core glitch? Some leftover current from before the war? Stanton gave that small, grim shake of his head he always did when something felt wrong. Doesn't matter, he said quietly. We clear the sheds and get ready to evac. We'll mark the find. And that's when the ground vibrated. Just a subtle tremor at first. Barely noticeable. Like distant thunder. Then a low hum. Deep, mechanical, rising from beneath the sand, the metal, the wreckage. Riley froze. Haskins dropped to a crouch. My mouth went dry. Stanton, I said quietly. What is that? He didn't answer. Because by then, we all knew, even before the red lights flickered on under the debris, even before the grinding whir of treads rolling to life, even before the servo whine of torsos turning, even before the first heavy, synchronized click, click, click of 3 minigun barrels spooling up at once. We knew. This wasn't a supply cache, wasn't a dead crash site, wasn't a lucky scavenger find. It was a pre-war kill zone, and all of it had just woken up. And then, from somewhere in that rising nightmare of metal and dust, a voice, deep, mechanical, cold. Initiating defensive protocols. The words hadn't even finished echoing when a trooper screamed, "Get down!" and the world exploded. The moment that voice hit the air, everything inside me clenched. Not fear. Recognition. That low, forceful, pre-war vocalizer you only ever hear once before things go bad. All 3 bots powered up at once. Treads grinding against concrete. Metal plates clattering. Red sensors flaring through the dust like angry coals. But only one spoke. And after its words rolled out, steady and cold. Initiating defensive protocols. The entire world came apart. "Get down!" someone yelled. Haskins, I think. But the noise swallowed his voice almost immediately. The first minigun spun up with a rising metallic whine that drilled straight into my skull. The second followed half a heartbeat later. The third, a moment after that. Then the firing started. A wall of 5mm tore into the vertibird hull, shredding metal into sparks and hot debris. Bullet fragments screamed off the fuselage, ricocheting like angry hornets. The air turned into a storm of dust, sand, and heat. Stanton dove behind a supply crate and dragged me with him before I even fully hit the ground. The crate shook violently as rounds slammed into it, splintering the metal. "Riley, cover left!" Stanton barked over the roar. Riley didn't answer, just popped out long enough to fire a controlled burst. One of the bots jerked slightly but kept advancing, treads grinding relentlessly over the cracked foundation. Haskins scrambled behind a toppled rotor assembly, yelling something I couldn't hear, probably praying. Or cursing. Hard to tell. The poisoned trooper, Keen, couldn't even stand anymore. He crawled behind the vertibird frame, dragging himself inch by inch, gasping in pain with every pull. His face had gone pale, lips trembling, breaths shallow. He was fading fast. I slid into cover beside him, firing blindly over the hull. "Stay awake," I said, grabbing his vest. "You hear me?" Stay awake. He blinked hard, eyes hazy. Matryan. A rocket whooshed past overhead and slammed into the hillside behind us, shaking the earth so violently I felt my teeth rattle. Sand rained down in thick sheets. My ears rang instantly, drowning the world in a high, piercing tone. I shook it off and leaned out again. The bots weren't moving like scavenged junk. They weren't sputtering or misfiring. They were operating clean, deadly clean. Whatever backup power they'd been sitting on for 200 years was more than enough to kill us right now. "Riley, suppress that one," Stanton shouted. Riley took a knee, set his rifle against a metal crate, and fired in rhythmic bursts. Sparks flew from a bot's torso plating, but it kept advancing. Steady, methodical, grinding forward through the dust. Haskins shouted, "They're flanking! They're—" He cut off with a yell as a burst of fire chewed through the metal he was hiding behind. He rolled out just in time, clutching his arm, blood seeping through his sleeve. "Shit!" I yelled. "Haskins is hit!" "Stay down!" Stanton barked. I tried to drag Keen farther behind the vertibird hull, but he winced, his muscles spasming from the venom. Then something hit the dirt near my leg and bounced once a rocket round. Unfired. It clinked once on the ground. Before I could process what that meant, boom! The bot launched another rocket at Riley's position. He moved at the last second, the explosion blowing the crate apart and throwing him sideways. This wasn't a fight. This was a firing squad. We were pinned in a circle of metal and dead ground, and the bots had perfect lines of fire. Stanton crawled over, breathing hard. Dirt streaked across his face. "We're not winning this," he said, calm but grim. "Keep them busy. Don't let them hit Keen." "Busy how?" I shouted over the gunfire. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. We just kept firing, hopelessly, desperately, trying to buy seconds we didn't have. Then, through the hurricane of gunfire and explosions, something changed. A single sound cut through the chaos. Crack. Not a bot, not one of ours. Not anything firing in panic or desperation. A single, clean rifle, shot sharp, controlled, professional. It echoed across the crash site with a kind of authority nothing else had. One of the bots jolted. Its sensor lens burst in a flash of sparks. A second crack came immediately after, even cleaner. Haskins froze. Riley looked up from behind his cover, eyes wide. Even Stanton's expression shifted slightly, just enough to tell me he'd recognized it too. That sound didn't belong to any trooper. That was a Ranger rifle. And someone out there had just put a round straight into a sentry bot's face. The bots reacted instantly, torsos twisting, treads grinding, trying to locate the new threat. More shots came from the flank, precise, efficient, each one hitting metal with clinical accuracy. Through the dust, I could make out dark silhouettes moving low and fast, working angles we couldn't reach. A voice shouted over the gunfire, "Hold your fire! We've got you covered!" Ranger. Relief hit me so hard it almost stole my breath. The same two Rangers we'd passed earlier, the same ones heading the opposite direction, had come back. Why? I didn't know. But right then, didn't matter. All that mattered was that they were here, and they were tearing those bots apart with the kind of calm, deadly confidence only Rangers could muster. One of the bots toppled as a Ranger sent round tore through its right tread. Another staggered as precise bursts dismantled its weapon mount. Stanton shouted, "Push forward! Give them room to work!" We pushed. They advanced, and the Mojave's kill zone became a battleground we might actually walk away from. The Rangers moved like ghosts through the dust, silent except for the sharp, disciplined cracks of their rifles. They spread out in a wide crescent, using the wreckage as natural cover, firing in coordinated bursts that kept the bots flailing between targets. Stanton saw the opening first. "Shift right!" Help them pin the center one. We pushed through the settling haze, firing whenever a bot's torso turned our way. Riley braced up on the vertibird's twisted landing strut and put round after round into a bot's exposed joints. Haskins, bleeding but determined, kept up a steady rhythm of suppressive fire that forced the bots to split focus. Then a ranger's voice cut through the chaos. Left unit disabled. 2 remaining. Sure enough, the leftmost bot staggered sideways, its tread blown out. Sparks spat from its drive motor as it rotated wildly in place, trying to stabilize. Another precise shot from the ridge cracked its sensor lens, and it went still, smoke curling from its chassis. The remaining 2 bots doubled down. Rockets thumped out in rapid succession, slamming into the dirt and dragging walls of dust over the battlefield. I felt one go off close enough to knock me into the vertibird hull, ears ringing. But over the ringing, over the fire and the shouting and the grinding of treads, I could hear the Rangers calm, cold, professional. Crack, crack, crack. Each bullet meant something. Each one hit something important. Riley dropped to a knee beside me. They're turning the tide, he muttered, half in disbelief. Yeah, I breathed. Thank God. Keene was slumped against the metal, barely conscious. His breaths came in shallow, rattling pools. His skin glistened with venom sweat. We need a medic, I yelled. Let's end this first, Stanton barked. Fair enough. A rocket burst against the fuselage, blowing open a chunk of it and showering sparks and shredded aluminum everywhere I shielded Keene as best I could, while Stanton and Riley leaned out, firing relentlessly. Then, a sudden shift. One of the remaining bots lurched forward, trying to bring its minigun to bear, only for its weapon housing to erupt in a shower of metal as a Ranger shot tore straight through the assembly, its barrels jammed. It spun uselessly, and then another Ranger round cracked into the bot's upper chassis, flipping it backward in a plume of dust and fire. Stanton's voice rose above the chaos, commanding, "Focus fire, last one." We all swung toward the final bot. It was already turning, torn between us and the Rangers. Its treads chewed into the ground, kicking up sand as it tried to realign. That hesitation cost it everything. The Rangers hit it first. 2 shots to the torso, 1 to the tread. Then Riley landed a round into its power conduit. I fired through a gap in its plating as it tried to pivot toward me. The bot's entire frame went rigid. The red sensor dimmed. Its minigun spun down with a dying whine. Then it collapsed onto its side, stirring a small dust cloud. And just like that, it was over. The sudden silence was jarring, like someone had muted the whole Mojave. Dust drifted. Metal pinged softly as it cooled. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Stanton let out a breath and stood slowly. "Clear! Clear!" From the ridge, one Ranger called out, "Hold position! Coming to you!" They approached with that same deliberate stride we'd seen earlier. Rifles held low, movements confident but cautious. Each step felt like a relief. The lead Ranger knelt beside Keene instantly. "Cazador sting?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Bad one." "Should have been dead already," he muttered, pulling a field syringe from his kit. "You kept him moving. Good. Might have saved him." He injected Keene with something thicker than standard anti-venom. Ranger issue. Keene let out a weak groan, but his breathing eased just a little. The second Ranger scanned the area, then looked at Stanton. "Command said you boys were headed way past safe distance," he said. "Didn't like the idea of you going out that far alone." That hit harder than I expected. Simple words. Nothing grand, but real. Stanton nodded once. "Thanks." The Ranger gave a faint shrug. "We're NCR. That's what we do." They helped us stabilize Keene, splinted Haskins' arm, and checked our ammo and gear like seasoned field medics. No judgment, No lectures, just quiet professionalism. Keen was still breathing, barely, but alive. "We'll get him to Forlorn Hope's medic tent," the ranger said. "He's got a shot." A shot. That was more than we had an hour ago. We started the long walk back, slower than before, bodies aching, ears still ringing, adrenaline slowly bleeding out. I glanced once over my shoulder at the wreckage, the dead bots, the shredded metal, the dust settling over the crash site like nothing had happened. The Mojave always covers its tracks, but my mind wouldn't forget. We shouldn't have lived through that fight, not without help. And somewhere between the ringing in my ears and the weight of Keen against my shoulder, I realized something. Out here, in the wasteland, survival isn't about being strong. It's about who's watching your back. And for once, we got lucky because the Rangers were watching.